Right, so just to start with the premise of why we're here, my name is Nathaniel Collins. I'm a regional director for UKTI Education. We were set up in 2013 as part of Lord Now's ministerial department, and our remit is simple: to help UK education companies export successfully abroad. And we do this in two ways. The first is on the demand side. We have 110 commercial officers in all geographic markets across the world, experts in education. We have 35 of them over there, and they've been busy for the last 2 or 3 days. So that's really where they work in overseas markets to work with the big stakeholders and understanding what their specific requirements are. They then feed those requirements back to the UK sector. And that's coordinated by myself and our education EdTech specialist, Vipul, who's standing there. And our key role is to work with the supply chain. And we do that for the whole of the education sector. So it's quite an easy way to explain it, is if you looked at it in terms of 4 pillars, which are the operating pillars, which will be the schools, the higher education bodies, the further education bodies, and the professional and corporate training. Those are the pillars, and underpinning each of them are a series of cross-cutting themes. So one obvious one is English language training. It impacts in the school system. It also there at universities and FE colleges and corporate support services. Another one is teacher training. Again, can impact any of those pillars. And the third one, of course, is education technology. It's present in all of the pillars in schools, and we're going to run through that today. So this meeting is set in 2 parts. The first will be looking at global observations in the education technology market, and the second one will be focusing on why the UK. Why the UK are best in show, and you should be looking to do business with the country. Good. So going on with the first bit, which are the trends that we've observed, this sets out the curve going upwards, and it really means to emphasize one thing: the rapid development of education technology. So throughout the late 70s and 80s, up until the 90s, it was about getting computers into classrooms. But since then, we've started what's called the information revolution, and that's impacted this sector significantly. It became online in the 90s and the noughties. It then, with the advent of a smartphone, it became widely available through apps, bringing it to a bigger audience than before. And we're heading towards a future where education is going to be smart and personable for everyone. So what's driving this cultural shift? Well, we think there are 4 reasons. The first is technological advances, which is a simple principle that more people are getting the internet, and more people are getting the internet more quickly. The second is cultural shifts. So before, the older generations used to resist technological changes. It's got to the state where it's now growing in every region across the world. And I know this simply because my mum spent her whole life not knowing how to use a video machine. She actually has a smartphone and she uses it on a regular basis. So more people are being technology friendly. So that's increasing the availability and the people who want to look at it. And the third one is about improving affordability. So the more elements and the more units you approve, the cheaper it gets for everyone. And this is the affordability curve here, heading down into the top corner. So the key message is it's available to the masses, and now it's affordable to the masses as well. And then finally, and this is the real testament, how do you know something's a growing opportunity? You follow the money. This is the investment into the sector. So from 2010, it then approached the $1 billion mark. And if you look at it now in 2015, it's exceeding close towards $4 billion. That is all you need to know about how seriously the education technology sector is being taken. Okay, and so where is this creating the opportunities? We see it in 3 ways. The first one is what's being delivered. So you've got the connectivity and the infrastructure, the hardware, the software platforms, and the issue of content. Those are the type of products that they're selling. Look at the second one. How is it being applied? It's going into the classroom in 4 ways. Firstly, through administration, where a school will use MI reports to basically make decisions about how they're running their school. The second is in teaching itself. So away with the chalkboards and you know, the blackboards reporting stuff down. It's all changed now. So you've got internet capability, bringing forward all sorts of classroom-based technology to make it more fun for everyone, more interactive. The third is the learning, and it goes back to that point of availability. It can be done on a smartphone for people at home, unwell, not able to come into school. People in rural areas, it can reach them, and it's really driving that up. And then finally, it's on the assessment side. We have lots of technology that focuses on the individual, what they're doing well, and you could improve that, but also the school level, how the school's doing, you know, the assessments of the entire system. And it's then, who's it going to? And we go straight back to those pillars. You've got the schools, you've got the higher education and further education, You've got the corporate and professional services, so they're the 4 pillars. And then finally, it's the consumer as well. This is being made on a unit value to an individual or a parent, a student themselves, a teacher. It's going to everyone, and that's what's driving the growth. So this slide is quite an important point, the subtlety between an output and an outcome. Education technology is great, but it's not enough. You can't just buy laptops for a school, give them a laptops and say, we're digitized, this is great. It's about that training. It's about making the right interplays and the right uses of education technology so you're bringing real change into the school. And all of that is supplemented by teacher training. So if you're using these products, it's going to improve your services, but if you're getting it just for the sake of getting it, it's not going to help. And I leave you with that maxim at the bottom, which is quite true, is saying technology amplifies great teaching. It cannot substitute bad teaching. So the teacher, the quality of a teacher and their savviness around ICT is absolutely crucial. But if you get it right, this is the curve. From broadband up to learning analytics, you can really bring education technology at every stage into the pillar of education that you represent, and at all stages take you on that progressive curve to making your school more digitally inclusive. So to the meat of it, why choose the UK? Why is the UK at the forefront of what education technology is trying to do? Firstly, it's the quality of our own training. Whether you're a private provider looking at computer sciences or any application, we can deliver that to the highest quality. The further education colleges themselves specialize in sort of specialist IT technology like coding. And the proof in the pudding is in the top 200 schools around the world for education technology, 30 of them are on this island. And that in terms of ratio and population, that's a real fantastic achievement. The second one is recruitment of talent. Now, if you look at it, we can't really isolate who's exclusively in education technology because lots of technology firms work wider than that. But what we do know is that in terms of professional developers, there are more in London than there are in San Francisco. It is the highest talent hub for the technology centre as a whole. Now, the third aspect is very much around creating the right environment to grow. And we do this through a number of hubs where firms can come, develop their technology, and take that technology to market and grow it. And again, the proof being in the pudding, if you look at the fastest growing companies in Europe, the top 20, half of them are UK firms. So what we're doing is really working on a commercial focus and bringing the firms to market. The final aspect is the trade focus and the distribution, not just in the UK, but to overseas markets. I don't need to talk about it, it's here. And this is the commercial focus that we're bringing to the operations. So it's those 4 conditions that make the UK offer more compelling. The second part is the comprehensiveness of the offer. So you recall I talked about the way that it's playing out and the type of product being sold. Against that matrix, we have a key and very, very prominent UK providers against every single sector. Administration and hardware doesn't exist, but for everything else, we've got key players and we've got lots and lots of companies active in all of the squares. So to reiterate that, we're number 1 because of the comprehensiveness of our offer and how that plays across. We can deliver any type of edtech solution that an overseas buyer is looking to acquire. So third, if it goes to the stage where an overseas buyer says, great, we want the UK, bring them into my office tomorrow, it's of course not that simple. And what we can also do to the overseas buyer is work with you to understand what you want, and we can tell you how best to engage the UK sector. So you have the market dynamics, which is, what is the strategy like? Do they have something all written up and ready to go? Where are they in the maturity curve? Are they fully connected and is the country sort of digitally advanced and in a good state? Or, what is the local access like? Who is it reaching? What is the potential market? And also the competition. How many players are active in that section? i.e., how attractive is it for a UK company to come across and export? The second aspect is in procurement, and it's really just a clear, transparent process that they know and they can trust. And it always comes to those key things. Who's making the decisions? Is there actually a stated budget that they're willing to spend money to do it? And what's the time frame like? The more transparent it is, the more a UK company is likely to engage. The third point is around the routes to market. So the first one being around, do they need to sell the product? Can they do it from the UK, or do they need to go to the country and start distributing it? That's just cost, and they're going to want to understand that up front. The second is the customization. How adaptable is their product to that market? Do they sell the right sort of smartphone in that market so they can put it straight there? Or is it largely dominated by a type of Android that isn't really applicable to that product? And then finally, it's local regulation. What's it like to do business in that country? And that's the sort of stuff that a UK firm's going to be doing in. So as part of that sell about getting the right supplier and access comes back to UKTI education. So we work with a series of edtech providers across the industry, and we look to bring them together, first of all, on the demand side. When we work with the overseas stakeholder and understand their requirement, we bring it back to what's called a working group, which is a body of all the main providers in edtech, and we try to build consortia. How do we pull them together to meet their requirements? We also look to engage them into specialists who can provide them specific advice and help to encourage firms to export to that market and bring them together in a cohesive way. And then on the supply side, we look to feed that into all of the edtech companies. So we're building a database which is really going to set out for each of the firm's providers down to a product level. What are they selling? So the gag I've been making, and it's largely true, we want to move away from Tinder, sort of scattergun, going to everywhere, towards eHarmonies, which is the right fit with the company and the demand environment. And the joke, of course, is that you call it tender. So that's really what we're here to do. We're supported by our commercial officers who've been here over the days. We're here for the rest of the day. If you're interested in learning more, come and find us. That concludes the presentation side, but I'm happy to take questions from anyone. I presume there's going to be a microphone somewhere if someone wanted to do that.